Hello, my name is Andrew, and welcome to Sleepy School. Each night, I'll read you a story filled with history, science, and wonder, told slowly, so you can learn and drift off at the same time. Before we begin, I always love to know, where in the world are you listening from? I read every comment, and it makes me smile to imagine all the places people are falling asleep tonight. If you're new here, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow and lets me keep bringing you a fresh bedtime lecture every evening. Now, settle in, take a slow breath, and let's begin tonight's story. Tonight, let us drift back more than 4,000 years to the western bank of the Nile, where the desert meets the floodplain. The air is still, dry, and cool. Stars scatter across the sky in silver arcs, and in the distance you see firelight flickering along the edge of a vast plateau. Lamps, torches, and small clay braziers glow against the limestone cliffs, like constellations fallen to earth. You have arrived at Giza, in the age of pyramid building. The night is alive with quiet sound, the creak of wooden sledges being hauled back to camp, the murmur of men resting after a long day, bakers pulling flat loaves from clay ovens, brewers tapping jars of beer, cloudy and sweet. A foreman counts out rations, bread, onions, dried fish, dates, while a scribe notes tallies on a broken shard of pottery. It is orderly, almost peaceful. The pyramid rises behind them, not yet finished, its flanks uneven in the lamplight. It has been years in the making already, and years more remain. Myths have long said the pyramids were thrown up in a rush, built by slaves under whips. But the truth, whispered in stone and pottery, tells a slower story. The Great Pyramid of Khufu, called Akhet Khufu, the Horizon of Khufu, took roughly 2 decades to complete. Not in panic, not in suffering, but in cycles, as steady as the Nile itself. Flood season, planting, harvest, each year repeating as stones were cut, ferried, lifted, and set into place. Think of the rhythm of Egyptian life, 3 seasons turning like gears. Akhet, the flood, when the Nile covered the fields. Peret, the growing season, when crops sprouted from the receding waters. Shemu, the harvest, when grain filled the storehouses. In Akhet, when fields lay underwater, farmers left their villages and came to work for the state. Some were conscripted, others volunteered. They were not slaves but citizens, paid in food, beer, and clothing. They joined the permanent teams who lived at Giza year-round: quarrymen, masons, carpenters, rope makers, bakers, potters, and priests. In Peret and Shemu, many went home again to tend crops. The pyramid grew with the seasons, just as naturally as wheat ripening in the sun. Now picture the workers' town as you walk through it by lamplight. Mud brick houses, whitewashed and simple. Communal bakeries with rows of conical molds, each filled with dough and propped against glowing coals. Breweries where vats bubble with a porridge of barley and emmer. A sweet, nourishing beer that served as both drink and daily wage. Storage rooms stacked with baskets of grain, jars of dried dates, bundles of onions. A healer binding the shoulder of a labourer with linen and resin salve. This was not a prison camp, but a planned village. Practical, organised, full of life. At dawn, the quarry teams march out. The limestone here at Giza is local, pale, and easy to cut. Men with copper chisels and dolerite pounding stones work side by side. The sound is steady, thud, scrape, crack, like a heartbeat across the desert floor. Grooves deepen, faults split, and blocks are levered free with wooden poles. Dust rises in the hot air, clinging to skin, stinging eyes. Each block is dragged onto sledges hauled by lines of men chanting in rhythm. Tomb paintings show a man pouring water on the sand before the runners. This simple trick binding grains together, making the sled slide more easily. A touch of physics, centuries before Archimedes. The sledges creak, ropes groan, and the blocks begin their slow climb up the plateau. Perhaps on a long straight ramp, perhaps on switchbacks climbing the pyramid's flanks. The debate echoes across time. Some say an internal spiral was cut within the pyramid itself. Perhaps all three were used one after another as the monument rose higher and higher. Each theory whispers the same truth, that patience and organization, not mystery, raised the pyramid. Pause here and imagine a single day. Surveyors at dawn stretching a cord, aligning it with circumpolar stars that never set. Priests murmuring prayers to Seshat, goddess of measurement. Foremen calling crews into place, counting heads, distributing tools. The rising sun glints off copper chisels sharp and shining. A boy runs with a water jar to thirsty men hauling ropes. A scribe marks symbols on pottery sherds, a tally of bread loaves, a measure of beer, a note of which crew delivered which block. Every act recorded, every step measured. The pyramid grows, one course at a time. Massive at the base, each layer slightly smaller than the one below. Blocks are trimmed and set with joints so tight that even centuries later, a knife blade cannot slip between them. The outer casing stones, quarried from Tura across the river, are finer still. Smooth, chalk-white limestone that gleams in the sun. Imagine it when complete. Not a weathered ruin, but a mountain of light. Its sides polished to shine like snow beneath the desert sun. At night, the camp's quiet again. Workers eat their rations, bread dipped into stews of lentils and onions. Beer passed hand to hand. Someone begins a song of Ra sailing through the sky, or of Osiris ruling the underworld. Children run barefoot across the packed dirt lanes of the workers' town. The pyramid looms above in silhouette, unfinished but steady, layer upon layer rising toward the stars. It is only the first years of a 20-year labor. A boy who arrived at 7 will be grown by the time the capstone is set. A farmer who hauls stones in flood season may live to see only half the courses finished. But each one leaves his mark, in sweat and dust, in small graffiti scrawled inside hidden chambers, crew names like the Friends of Khufu. Not slaves, not faceless masses, but teams with pride. Human hands building patiently, day by day, season by season. As the years pass, the work at Giza grows more complex. The limestone blocks that form the bulk of the pyramid are cut and dragged from the plateau itself. But for the most important chambers, the king's chamber, the passageways, and the grand granite beams, stones must come from far away. Granite, harder than limestone, is quarried in Aswan, more than 500 miles upriver. Picture the quarry at dawn. The pinkish stone glitters faintly in the rising light. Workers gather with dolerite pounding stones, dark, heavy, almost indestructible. They swing them again and again, pounding grooves into the granite, slowly cutting trenches deep enough to loosen blocks. The sound is relentless, stone against stone, a dull percussion echoing across the riverbank. It might take weeks, even months, to free a single block. Some are massive, 40 tons or more, destined to span the roof of Khufu's chamber. Once freed, the blocks are levered onto wooden sledges, dragged to the Nile, and loaded onto large boats. The river is the lifeline. Barges with papyrus sails catch the wind, floating downstream with the current. Each one creaks under the weight of granite blocks lashed in place with thick rope. The Nile itself becomes part of the building crew, carrying stone northward with its steady current. In flood season, when the water rises high, canals dug from the river allow boats to glide directly to the foot of the plateau. The boats dock near ramps where men are waiting to unload. Imagine the sound, men chanting as they pull ropes, drums keeping rhythm, the splash of water as logs are rolled beneath the hull. The pyramid site is a hive, connected to distant quarries by the great river's steady flow. Back at Giza, specialized workers await. The masons, skilled men, chip and smooth the stones so that each block fits tightly. Their tools are simple: copper chisels, dolerite hammers, wooden mallets, copper saws with sand poured in as abrasive. Sparks fly sometimes as dolerite strikes granite. The masons crouch low, working by the light of the sun or oil lamps at dusk. Chips of limestone scatter like snow around their feet. Nearby, rope makers twist papyrus fibers into cords strong enough to pull the sledges. Carpenters fashion rollers, sled runners, and handles. Potters bake hundreds of jars for beer and grain. Every craft feeds the greater project. This is not a single labor, but a web of thousands, each role essential. A bread maker's hands shaping loaves of emmer wheat are as necessary as the quarryman's blows on granite. Consider the scale. Archaeologists estimate as many as 20 to 30,000 workers rotated through Giza during peak building years. Not all at once, but in seasonal cycles. Permanent crews, perhaps 10,000 strong, lived year-round in the workers' village. The rest came during the Nile flood, when fields were underwater. For 3 or 4 months, the valley filled with laborers, swelling the camp with voices and footsteps. Then, as the flood receded, many returned home, replaced by others. The pyramid was not built in a single breath, but in this constant inhaling and exhaling of labor, tied to the rhythm of the river. The ramps remain one of the great mysteries. Imagine the pyramid half-built, its lower courses solid and smooth. To raise blocks higher, ramps must climb beside it. Some scholars picture a massive straight ramp stretching out into the desert, long enough to reduce the slope to a manageable incline. Others suggest zigzagging switchbacks, hugging the sides of the pyramid. Still others imagine a spiral ramp curling upward around its edges, or even an internal passage hidden within the growing stone. Perhaps the truth was a combination: straight ramps at first, then wrapping ramps as the monument rose. The exact method is debated, but the principle is clear. With levers, ropes, sledges, and thousands of hands, each block was lifted course by course, step by step, until it joined its neighbors in place. The pace was deliberate. Archaeologists calculate that the Great Pyramid required more than 2 million blocks. That sounds overwhelming, but spread across 2 decades it means roughly 300 blocks placed each day. At first, when the courses were low, the pace was quicker. As the pyramid rose, progress slowed. Each block demanded longer hauls, higher ramps, greater precision. Yet the work continued year after year without pause. Picture the sight as dusk falls, the sun sets behind the Libyan plateau, shadows stretching long across the sand. Fires flicker to life in the workers' village. The smell of baking bread drifts from clay ovens. Men laugh, tired but alive, passing bowls of stew. Children chase each other between mud brick walls. Priests chant evening hymns to Ra, the sun god, thanking him for the day's light. Beyond the village, the pyramid looms in silhouette. Its sides are jagged, still, unfinished, rough. But already it rises higher than the cliffs, its peak brushing the stars. To To the men who haul its stones, it must feel eternal, as though they are building not just for their pharaoh, but for time itself. Daily life for a worker was demanding, but not without reward. Rations were steady: loaves of bread, onions, garlic, dried fish, figs and beer. Enough to fill the belly, enough to nourish the body for hard labor. Some workers left graffiti inside hidden chambers, team names, jokes, drawings. One crew called themselves the Friends of Khufu, another the Drunkards of Menkara. These marks, left behind where no visitor was meant to see, remind us that these were not faceless slaves. They were men with humor, pride, and identity. Their laughter and sweat are still hidden in the stones. Think of the precision required. A single block too rough could throw off an entire course. A casing stone not smoothed just right could ruin the pyramid's gleaming sides. Yet when complete, the casing stones fit so precisely that a knife blade could not slip between them. They reflected the sun so brightly that from miles away the pyramid looked like a shard of light. Sailors on the Nile used it as a beacon. Travelers in the desert saw it gleam against the horizon like a mountain of sunrise. And always the years slipped by. A child born in the village at the start of construction might grow to adulthood before the capstone was placed. A man might spend his youth hauling stones and his middle years shaping them, never seeing the final completion. But perhaps that did not matter. Each worker knew his part was not the whole, but a thread in the vast fabric of Khufu's horizon. Their names may not be remembered, but their hands shaped one of the greatest monuments of all time. Night again. The desert grows cool, the stars sharp against the black sky. Torches gutter, the hum of voices softens. The pyramid sleeps, its courses rising steadily year by year. Tomorrow, new blocks will be cut, new sledges hauled, new songs sung to the rhythm of ropes and drums. The work continues, as patient as the river, as steady as the stars. Years pass, and the pyramid rises higher. Layer by layer, course by course, the great monument nears its summit. The ramps grow longer, the climbs steeper. The blocks hauled up now are fewer each day, for every step higher means greater effort, greater time. Yet the work continues. Crews chant in rhythm, ropes creak, sledges groan. The pyramid is no longer just a project, it has become a world of its own. An entire generation of workers has lived and died at its side, their lives measured in bread loaves and limestone dust. By now, the outer casing stones are being placed. These blocks are not the rough local limestone of the core, but gleaming white stones ferried from Tura across the Nile. Each is carefully smoothed, polished and fitted with such precision that the seams almost vanish. Imagine the pyramid in its finished state, not a weathered ruin, but a mountain of light. When the sun rises, its rays strike the white limestone and scatter across the valley. To travelers, it looks less like a tomb than a beacon, a ladder between earth and sky. At the top, the final step awaits, the placing of the capstone, called the pyramidion, smaller than the others but perhaps covered in gold leaf to gleam in the sun. Priests climb with it, chanting hymns to Ra, the sun god. The stone is eased into place, crowning 2 decades of labor. When it settles, the pyramid is whole, from base to peak, from the foundation stones dug deep into bedrock to the shining tip that touches the sky. Khufu's horizon is complete. Consider the scale. The Great Pyramid stood originally at around 146 meters tall, or nearly 480 feet. For over 3,800 years, it was the tallest man-made structure on Earth, unmatched until medieval cathedrals rose in Europe. Its base covers 13 acres aligned with astonishing accuracy to the cardinal points. How did they achieve such precision? With simple tools, plumb bobs, sighting rods, cords stretched tight, and above all the stars. At night, surveyors aligned their lines with the circumpolar stars that never set, fixing the pyramid's corners to north, south, east, and west. The heavens themselves guided the monument into place. Inside, the chambers are laid out like the spine of a myth. Corridors slope upward, leading to the grand gallery, a space so tall and narrow it feels like a stone canyon. Above, the king's chamber rests, lined with granite brought from Aswan. Massive beams, each weighing dozens of tons, span its ceiling, distributing the crushing weight above. These chambers are silent now, but imagine them at the time of completion. Priests placing offerings, chanting prayers, lighting incense until the air glowed with smoke and resin. This was not just stone, it was sacred architecture, a vessel to carry the king into eternity. Outside, the workers gather in the evening to watch the last of the scaffolding removed, the final ramps dismantled. For years their lives have been tied to this rising mountain. Some cheer, some fall silent, some perhaps feel a pang of loss. The work that bound their days has ended, yet in place of their labor stands something greater than any one man, a monument for eternity. The pyramid glows in the setting sun, its sides burning gold, its capstone gleaming like fire. It is no longer just Khufu's tomb. It is Egypt's horizon itself, a marker against time. Think of the meaning. To the Egyptians, the pyramid was more than a grave. It was a symbol of rebirth. Its shape echoed the rays of the sun, spreading outward as they touched the earth. And that brings us to the end of tonight's story. I hope you found it calming. Maybe you learned something new, and maybe you're already drifting into sleep. If you enjoyed this, please like the video and subscribe to Sleepy School. It helps more people find these stories and join us each night. I'd also love to hear from you, so let me know in the comments where in the world you're listening from tonight. For now, rest well, dream deeply, and I'll see you tomorrow night with another bedtime lecture. Good night.